Quick challenge. Close your eyes and imagine 3 apples. Easy. Now imagine 30 apples. Still possible. How about 300 apples? Your picture probably started getting fuzzy. Now imagine 1 billion apples. What do you see? Probably nothing. Maybe a giant pile. Maybe a huge number written on a screen, but not 1 billion individual apples. And that's because your brain has a strange limitation. It can understand a billion mathematically, but it can't truly imagine it. And this tiny mental weakness quietly affects how we think about money, populations, technology, and even the future of humanity. So why does your brain completely fail at 1 billion? The answer begins tens of thousands of years ago. Imagine you're an early human standing on a grassy plain. You need to know something important. Are there 3 lions nearby or 30? That difference could mean life or death. You need to know whether your tribe has 5 people or 50, whether you found 10 berries or 100. These are numbers you can act on. But 1 billion? No human ancestor ever needed to count anything close to that. Evolution never prepared your brain for gigantic numbers. Your mind evolved for survival, not for understanding national budgets or social media statistics. In fact, even small children have a surprisingly good sense of quantity. They can instantly recognize 1 object, 2 objects, or 3 objects without counting. Scientists call this subitizing. Your brain can simply see small amounts, but after about 4 objects, something changes. The mind stops seeing exact quantities. Instead, it starts estimating. You don't instantly see 27 dots. You see a lot of dots. And if 27 already becomes fuzzy, imagine what happens with 1 billion. But the biggest problem isn't just size, it's scale. Because our brains are terrible at understanding exponential differences. Take 1 million and 1 billion. The words sound similar. They even look similar. 1 million, 1 billion. They feel like neighbors, but they're not neighbors. They're separated by an enormous canyon. A billion is not slightly bigger than a million. It's 1,000 times bigger. Imagine stacking 1 million $1 bills. Now make that stack 1,000 times taller. That's $1 billion. The numbers use similar words, but they represent completely different worlds. Here's another way to see it. Suppose you count 1 number every second. 1, 2, 3. No breaks, no sleep, no stopping. How long until you reach 1 million? About 11 and a half days. That's already a long time. Now keep going until 1 billion. Ready? It would take over 31 years. 31 years. You could start counting before a child is born and still be counting when they finish college. And suddenly, 1 billion starts feeling a little different. Here's an even stranger comparison. 1 million seconds ago, you were living about 11 days in the past. 1 billion seconds ago, you were roughly 32 years in the past. Think about that. 11 days versus 32 years. That's the gap your intuition completely misses. And the reason is simple. Your brain understands through experiences. You understand what 1 meter looks like because you've seen one. You understand what 1 hour feels like because you've lived thousands of them. You understand what $10 can buy because you've spent money before. But what does 1 billion of anything feel like? Most people have never seen 1 billion objects, never counted 1 billion items, never touched $1 billion, never experienced anything remotely close, so the brain has nothing to attach the number to. It's like trying to imagine a color you've never seen. You can say the words, you can understand the definition, but your mind cannot generate the experience. And this leads to a strange consequence. When we hear that a company is worth $1 billion, or that a video has 1 billion views, or that a government spends hundreds of billions, our brains often react with a shrug, because beyond a certain point, gigantic numbers all start feeling the same. 100 million, a billion, 10 billion. They're mathematically different, but emotionally, they all become really, really big. Your mind compresses them into a single category, too large to experience, too large to visualize, too large to intuitively understand. And this mental shortcut isn't a bug. It's actually useful. Your brain has limited processing power. It cannot represent every possible number with perfect detail, so it focuses on scales that matter to everyday life. the number of friends you have, the number of items in your room, the number of people in a crowd. For these situations, your intuition works beautifully. But once numbers become enormous, your brain switches strategies. It stops trying to picture the exact amount. Instead, it simply labels it. Huge, extremely huge, ridiculously huge. And that's it. But there's one final twist. Even though you cannot truly imagine 1 billion, you can still understand it through comparisons. A billion seconds is 32 years. $1 billion is $1,000 million. A billion objects would fill spaces far beyond anything you've personally experienced. Comparisons become bridges. They let your mind approach something it cannot directly picture. And maybe that's one of the most fascinating things about being human. Our brains evolved to count berries, notice predators, and survive in small groups. Yet we've built civilizations that regularly deal with quantities far beyond our imagination. We discuss billions of dollars, billions of people, billions of stars, numbers so enormous that no person on Earth can truly see them in their mind. And perhaps that's the strange reason 1 billion feels unreal. Not because it's impossible to understand, but because it's simply too large for a brain that was designed to survive on a grassy plain. A billion isn't just a big number, it's the point where human intuition reaches its limit. And beyond that limit, and we can still do the math, but we stop being able to feel the number itself.